Hi there, good evening, or good afternoon, or good morning, or wherever you're listening to this. This is the Play Up podcast with myself, Scott McLachlan, and once again, I'm joined by a couple of friends and Pompey fans. And first of all, it's Phil Sands. How are you, Phil?
I'm all right, thank you. Good evening.
Good, good to hear that. And secondary, Reese. Sorry, Reese. How are you doing, Reese?
All right, Lace.
Reese.
Good evening, everybody. I'm fine, thank you. I
Good,
think.
good to see you, and good to hear you, mate. Sorry about the mispronunciation of your name. So that's not a very good start to the pod, but let's hope it improves and increases in quality from there. So we've got a few things to discuss tonight. We're going to round up the three games which we've seen since the last pod and look ahead to the games in what I'm calling Fab February Mark II. Hopefully, we'll emulate what we did at the middle of for February last year, and go on a winning run or an unbeaten run that gave us a lot of points and cemented our place at the top of the League One. But this year, obviously, we're looking to pull ourselves away from the relegation zone down at the bottom, of which we are out of by a couple of points at the moment, which is good news. But we've got some winnable games coming up in February, and we'll discuss those as well. And Phil, you're going to be doing a quiz, which is good news. So we'll go into that after we've done the games review. So upwards, first of all, it was West Brom away. And I think I did re-listen to the pod again before we came on today, a couple of days ago. And we were very sceptical about getting any points at West Brom, but based on the fact that we'd won two home games, we were quite chipper, weren't we? But as predicted, it was an absolute car crash again. So if anyone cares to remember, it was 5-1 to West Brom. Thomas Waddingham getting his first goal for Pompey, coming off the bench, the young Australian. Getting second attempt tap in from across, which was no more than a consolation. Pompey actually started quite well. Were matching West Brom. I think West Brom certainly were in control of the match for quite much of the first 20 odd minutes. But Pompey seemed to be matching them, and we seemed to have high hopes that we would emulate our last two games. But as Pompey seems to be doing away from home, the collapse was started by a goal by Moet on the 25th minute, and then four more goals quickly followed in the first half that rapidly turned into disaster. So Jed Wallace got a goal and seemed to sort of celebrate enough. He wasn't obviously one of these people who didn't want to celebrate against his old team. And Dean Garner got the other two on the 32nd and 44th minute. So Pompey went in at half-time at 4-0. And it was probably down to the fact that we'd made a number of changes. So we had obviously still pack at the back, and in comes Sadie to support Bishop, and Devlin came in on the right. So we'd rested Murphy and also Lang, of which seemed to be our downfall. But you can't really blame the fact that we rested much of our forward line for the calamity that happened at the back. I mean, Schmidt had a terrible game, didn't he? So what do we think about the match in general? I mean, it was one of those that seemed, again, we've seen it three or four times, Reese, where the game seemed to just literally run away from us without us even laying a glove on West Brom. You know, once they'd got that first goal, the next 15 minutes was horrific, wasn't it?
It was, and I mean, I went to the game, and it was really optimistic for the first 15, 20, 25 minutes. We were matching them. We were down in front of the away fans. We were getting corners and things, and then just suddenly one goal mistake by Schmidt, and I'm sorry, but the effort levels dropped by 10, 20% straight away. You could just see it, and it was just an utter collapse. And I get he had to rotate players. I get that, but it was like, well, if you're going to rotate or rest Lang and Murphy, well, why don't you rest Bishop as well? And then he brought on Lang and Murphy when we were like 4-0 down, and it's like, well, why are you bringing them on? You might, if you're just going to have a humiliation, I would have just kept the 11 out there, played it out, and then just not risk any of your star players. The irony being, we actually looked a little bit more offensive when Murphy and Lang came on, and we got a goal, but it was too little too late. So I get why fans were moaning, and I was one of them, but I get why he had to do it, and we just didn't have the strength and depth to rotate with quality.
No,
He was saying that his theory was apparently, I'll keep it tight and we'll remain in the game, and then for like the last 30 minutes, then I'll bring on the big guns.
He should have kept quiet about that, really, Phil, shouldn't he? Because if he'd have said
He also
nothing, then we wouldn't have known his master plan had come undone.
no, he also sounds like he's not watched Pompey away for the last few weeks, because we never keep it tight away.
No, that's true. Yeah, no, I saw those comments and I thought it was a bit, he'd hoisted himself by his own petard there to use that phrase, because if he'd have kept quiet, we wouldn't have known that was his plan and how spectacularly wrong it had gone.
Yeah.
We'd have just said, right, okay, he's put a weakened side out, and therefore, he probably didn't expect it to go that bad, but it did go that bad. But but he did exactly the same at Bristol, though, didn't he? He brought on the players after an hour, 65 minutes that he'd rested. All three of them, Bishop, Lang, and Murphy, came on, and you're thinking, you're not going to win. You're not going to get 3 goals or 4 goals back in 25 minutes. What's the point? If you're going to rest them, as you said, Reece, rest them properly. So, yeah, baffling, but that's just our MO playing away from Fratton Park at the moment, isn't it? We just haven't got the confidence, and we haven't got the rigidity to stop a team once they get going.
I do feel sorry for Bishop. You see the advantage of resting key players in the sort of like the preceding home games where, Murphy will come on and they're bombing up the wing, and Lang will be like a bag of tricks, and you think they needed the rest. And you see poor Bishop, who looks like a man who has been forced to play countless minutes after having a major operation, when he must be thinking, I need to put my feet up for a week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if at Bristol City he rested all of them, why didn't he rest Bishop as well? Because I think we'll go on to it a bit later. But Bishop looks as if he is struggling for form and for sharpness, and he doesn't have anyone to give him a hand. We're not going to be. I don't think we're going to be starting Waddingham anytime soon. So if he was going to, if that was his idea, is to put all of the reserves on and see if we can hang on to a 1-0 deficit until the last 20 minutes, then why didn't he rest Bishop as well? So yeah, a bit bizarre, but that's just like I said just a minute ago. It seems to be our fate at the moment, playing away from home. So, I mean, obviously Waddingham did get a goal, and as you pointed out, who else was it that scored on his debut and then didn't do anything, Phil? Sorensen, yes, absolutely.
I'll also point out he scored more goals than Yengi all season, so he's our most successful Australian striker of the 2024-25 season.
Absolutely. Well, let's hope Yengi gets back to try and at least rival him on that, because we need the numbers. So after that disappointment, obviously we thought, well, no, that's okay. Fine. We'll rely on our home form, won't we, Reece? And so we had Millwall the following Tuesday, which, based on the previous 6 matches, unbeaten with quite a few wins in there, it was a home banker, wasn't it?
Well, I think after seeing Millwall earlier in the season at home where they beat us 1-0, I think it was always going to come undone at some point. You can't 100% rely on your home games, and I thought it was a very similar Millwall, ironically, wall actually, and we just couldn't get past them. We had much more better quality, fit players up against them, but I just think everybody was off 10-20%. I mean, it was quite tight, and then I don't know, Marlon Pack went a bit AWOL from defence, went into midfield, tried to tackle, got played around him, and then they broke, and Matthews was left trying to play catch up, and it was a pretty decent finish from Ivanovic, and that was it, game over. And in the end, it was just quite a frustrating game. It's just one of those where you think we're just not going to score in a month of Sundays, and I don't know whether it's because Millwall seem to have absolute lumps at the back or what, but they just look like a solid championship team. They don't give away much. They're big guys. They got a little bit of quality. They chase you down, and I just saw kind of Richie, Lang, Murphy, Bishop. They everybody just had an off night that night. I don't recall anybody who kind of got a good performance, and it was frustrating, but I thought, yeah, they just edged it in a very, very tight game. But I guess the bright spot was Matthews jetting in from Australia and lasting, what was it, 70 minutes, something like that, and he did pretty well. And actually then, even better, Shaughnessy came on for the last 10 minutes and survived. So, yeah, a disappointing result. could have gone either way, but I just didn't think we were at the races that night.
Yeah, I have to agree with everything you say, Reece. Much of it pains me. No, no, I think they probably did a number on us. I think, like you say, Reece, it was a very professional performance on their part, and it just looked like one of those games that once they went a goal ahead, we were never gonna do anything. And it seems to be a bit out of sorts at the moment. I think that sort of carried over for a few games, and he sort of cut quite a frustrating figure in the Millwall game, because it seemed to be that his first thought as the ball came to me was, how am I going to get a free kick out of this? And the referee kind of said, "You're not, mate." And that was that from our sort of creative play. And it always gives me a laugh for my good friend the winger man, because I think Murphy got the man of the match because he was basically the only attacker with any intent, which obviously riled him. We've wound him up that we're just going to vote for Murphy in the man of the match award every week just to spite him. But yeah, I think good to see Shaughnessy back. We got some towering headers, and it was just great to see that. I mean, a proper centre back in there.
Well, it's good you mentioned Matthews, because I thought, and I said this on the WhatsApp chat, I thought it was a remarkable performance from him, bearing in mind his age, bearing in mind he'd only been in the country for 2 or 3 days, and he was put straight into the lineup with players that he'd probably just met that afternoon. It was a very, very solid 70 minutes, and Reece, as you rightly say, as Pack has done throughout the season, he went walkabout, went pressing. And Matthews was left one-on-one with unfortunately a player that was a little bit quicker than him, and managed to burst through onto the ball, and as you said, make a good finish. But they've got Jaffet Tanganga and Cooper at the back, who are established Championship and Premiership defenders. And the reason Murphy got the man of the match is because he swung in so many crosses, especially in the second half. But that was absolute meat and drink to them, wasn't it? There was no problem with them defending balls into the air, and obviously we put Waddingham on up front to try and get some aerial height in there for Bishop as well. But we only had one way of playing, and it wasn't working, and we didn't have the personnel at the time to try and go through something different, a plan B. Hopefully that's improved with the signings, which we'll discuss a bit later. You're right, Phil. I think I said that at half time. I said I don't think there's any way we can get a goal back, because we just didn't seem to be troubling them too much. I don't think the goalkeeper had a save to make, really. It was all dealt with by the midfield and defence. So when you get to that point, you're not troubling the goalkeeper. It's definitely not going to be your night. So really disappointing based on our recent home form, and if we had won that game, we were looking at it being very, very healthy in the table. As it was, we were fourth from bottom going into the Saturday match, and only 1 point off the bottom three again. So, Phil, if you could cover Burnley for us, I think this would be a little bit entertaining based on Burnley's performance more than Pompey's. But away you go, mate.
Entertaining is an interesting way to describe it. So,
well, I'm hoping your summary will be entertaining, because they always are. They always have been so far, so I'm looking forward to it.
So everyone who's seen Burnley play this season, including their own fans, has used the single word to describe them pretty much week in, week out, which is boring. And this shouldn't come as a surprise, as they're a team created in the image of their manager, Scott Parker, a very boring man. Boring voice, boring clothes, boring haircuts. He is football's Mr. Boring. So Burnley came into the game with a fantastic record of 16 wins, 13 draws and only 2 defeats, but with a ratio of just over a goal a game and a defence that had only conceded 9 goals all season. One of them being from Callum Lang back in September. The smart money was on a 0-0 scoreline or a 1-0 smash and grab by the away team. Pompey fielded what was arguably their strongest side possible. Big news was a welcome return to the starting lineup for Conor Shaughnessy after his cameo against Millwall. So he added much more solidity to the back four alongside Rob Atkinson. Believe it or not, they were the Blues' 10th different centre-back partnership of the season.
I can believe it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
With Marlon Pack and Hayden Matthews making way for them. One other change was that Andre Dazelle returned to the midfield at the expense of Isaac Hayden, and I think that he had a bit of a point to prove. There's also a place on the bench for new boy Cohen Bramall. I think we're all excited to see him. I think the phrase commentators use is open his legs, because he's reputed to be one of the fastest players in the league. Anyway, it was clear from the start Burnley's approach would be to keep it tight and try and hit Pompey on the break. Watching this, you can see why their fans aren't actually enjoying themselves as much as you'd expect. When your team looks likely to return to the Premier League at the first time of asking, you'd expect the fans to be full of enthusiasm. They're not exactly a big fan of the way they're playing. And despite the wealth of talent that Burnley had at their disposal, they play with a very workmanlike, cynical style designed to get results but not to entertain. In fairness, Pompey weren't at their swashbuckling home best. They struggled to break down a very solid back line. First half was very cagey. There's a smart goal line slaved by Schmidt in front of the Fratton end, and then a header against the post by Zach Swanson from a looping Josh Murphy cross. And they were really the only moments of excitement in the first half. The referee and his assistants weren't exactly covering themselves in glory with some bizarre decisions from both sides. Pompey got a throw in after Colby Bishop clearly headed the ball out. And there was one aerial ball down the line that curved about 2 or 3 feet out. And the linesman just watched it sail over his head and did nothing. Second half, slightly more exciting, but the biggest talking points again focused on the questionable officiating. There's a crisp volley from Lucas Perez, which looked like it was heading in the back of the net until Andre Dizelle blocked it on the line. From my lofty point in the Fratton end, couldn't really see what had happened. Burnley players were appealing for a penalty, but the referee David Webb was having none of it. Watching the slow motion replays after the game, the ball appeared to strike Dizelle on the thigh, then the belly, and then on one or more of his arms. At speed, it looked like he made an attempt to catch it. A bit like a sort of old-style circus strongman who catches a cannonball in his gut. Anyway, it would seem that everyone, apart from Keith Hackett, the former PGMOL chief, thought the referee had dropped a clanger. So we've all sided with Keith Hackett. It seemed like a bit of a let-off for Pompey, and Dizelle, who would have most likely been given a second yellow card and got his marching orders. From this point onwards, Burnley seemed to settle for a point. It appeared that while Pompey were keen to push for a winner, the visitors were happy to ensure that the ball was in play for the minimum amount of time. A lot of falling over, rolling around, time wasting. The dark arts reared their ugly head again. Then Burnley keeper James Trafford pulled off a fantastic save, brainlessly denying Ritchie's attempt to score from a Murphy cross. When they're right at the death, Colby Bishop blazed over the bar when he could have done better. 0-0, probably the right result in the end. Scoreline most Pompey fans would have taken before the game. Josh Murphy, again, probably our most dangerous player, with Callum Lang having an off day. But Andre Dizelle deserves a lot of praise for probably putting in his best 90 minutes in a blue shirt.
Absolutely, mate. There's also the other talking point as well was the Foster incident. So he was already on a yellow card in the second half, and after jumping on the back of one of the Pompey players and hauling him to the floor, he then half got up and then threw himself to the floor, covering his face when he realised he was in deep trouble with the referee, who really should have booked him. But he managed to get away from it. So that's another example of the poor officiating. I did joke, didn't I, on the WhatsApp that there was a late bid by the Harlem Globetrotters for Dizelle in the transfer window, and which Pompey denied. So yeah, it's one of those things I didn't have a good view from. You guys in the Fratton end probably had a much better view than I did. Not from my angle. I thought it's come off of Dizelle's leg initially and gone out. And I didn't really see the Burnley players that make that much fuss. I mean, they certainly weren't surrounding the referee or flailing their arms about. It seemed to be a fairly muted initial protest. So it's only on the replay that I saw that, as you said, Phil, there was a bit of a juggling act going on. Dizelle really didn't know what to do with his arms, did he?
No, I did quite like
flailing around.
I did quite like his post-match interview where he said, "My arms were down by my side. It hit my belly, and I don't know what happened after that."
It was a clear. I mean, if that was against us, you would say that's a penalty. It's also worth noting according to the BBC, Foster didn't get booked at all in that game, Scott. So I don't know whether we got a bit misunderstood as to who got booked.
I should have checked then in that case, but I thought he was booked, and
Roberts
was the one who got booked
on the 20th.
But maybe it was Roberts I was talking about then, rather than Foster. So it was. I mean, most of the North Stand were up in arms and baying for him to be sent off. So I wasn't the only one who was mistaken. There was a few thousand others, so that's all right then. Well, like you said, Phil, we'd have taken a point to start with, but it was really a non-event as a game, wasn't it? It was bizarre. I know Burnley won 1-0 again on Tuesday night and probably bored the pants off everyone as well, but they seem to be getting the job done. They're top of the table, second in the table rather, and still only 9 goals conceded, which is quite remarkable. But yeah, they are a difficult watch, aren't they? It's all the time wasting. They've got talent. I mean, I was really impressed by their winger Anthony. He tore Ogilvy apart every time he got on the ball wide and cut in and had that great left foot shot which Schmidt tipped over the bar. A Saka type attempt going for the top corner. So if they took the handbrake off, they could hammer some teams. I'm sure they could. They had some great quality, but they just didn't seem to want to attack. It was really weird.
I know this podcast about. Sorry, Reece.
That's what I was just saying. They did smash Plymouth 5-0 or 5-1 the other night, didn't they? So
that might say a bit more about Plymouth than it does Burnley. But we'll see. That Plymouth won a game the other day, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. But you were going to say something, Phil?
I was going to say there's some Burnley fans in the pub before the game, and they weren't. Let's just say they weren't full of praise of their team ahead of the game. And I think, I know this pod's about Pompey and not Burnley, but if I was a Burnley fan and I had to watch that all the day, or every week, because I think that game, it did sound like that game was quite reflective of the way they play, and it's not entertaining. And it will get them promoted back to the Premier League, but there's no joy in it.
No, I can understand what Parker's trying to do. He's obviously looking ahead and going, right, okay, if we don't concede, we'll get more points in the Premiership. But they've only scored 37 goals, and that's the second lowest in the top 12 teams. So even as lowly as Watford and Queen's Park Rangers in 12th and 13th have scored more goals than them. So it's like you say, Phil, it's about Pompey, but I just don't. If we tried to get promoted that way, I don't think the Fratton end or the Fratton Park
the mushies would have none of it.
No, the mushies would not have any of it at all. So
if you take that 5-0 out of it, that is literally a goal a game. I mean, how can you watch a team that scores a goal a game?
Yeah. There's joy and there's joy, and that's not really one that I want. But anyway, so after that, Portsmouth on 30 games played and 20th position on 30 points. Hull, Derby, Luton, and Plymouth below them. Phil, you've got a quiz for us and our listener. So lay it on us, mate. Let's see how bad we are or otherwise.
Okay, so this is the format of this has been shamelessly stolen from numerous other podcasts, radio programs, and websites. What I'm going to do is I'm going to describe a Pompey player by telling you the teams he's played for and how many appearances, and then you're at the first attempt, one guess only, going to get them. If you don't get it first attempt, I'm going to give you a clue. You're going to start. If you get it straight away, you get 5 points. If you need one clue, you get 4, and down to 3, 2, and 1. And then if your opponent steals it off you, they get a bonus point, and we'll see who wins.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Best man win, Reece?
Yes, absolutely.
So we will, as you are sitting to the left on my screen, Scott, you're going to go first, and I'm going to ask you to pick a player shirt between 1 and 10. This doesn't relate to the player's number. It's not that clever.
I'm going to go for 4.
Number 4.
Yeah.
Okay. So number 4, I am going to tell you, he started his career with Liverpool, where he had no league appearances. Went on loan to West Brom, where he had 5 league games with 2 goals. Then to Oxford United, 161 games, 44 goals. On to Portsmouth, 181 games and 31 goals. Went on loan to Blackpool, 3 games, 1 goal. Carlisle, 22 games and 2 goals. Kidderminster Rovers, 31 games and 9 goals. Rill, 10 games and 4 goals. Port Vale, 47 games and 2 goals. Accrington Stanley.
Who are they?
Thank you. Sounds almost like it was rehearsed. 15 games and 4 goals.
Okay.
You have one chance. Who was it, Scott?
Alan Bailey.
Incorrect.
Oh, no.
I
was thrown by the Oxford. Go on then.
First clue. He's regularly played for Liverpool in Masters football tournaments, despite only playing in 2 League Cup ties for the Reds.
I think Reese knows because he's literally pulling his hair out.
Absolutely.
No? Oh, okay.
Next clue. Oh, sorry, Scott, you haven't guessed.
John Durnin?
Oh, he's got him. 4 points.
Oh, blimey, that was
Well done.
Blimey, I was expecting you to go nope, and I was thinking about my next answer. But yes,
I've got it
4
because
points.
I'll have to give you clue 3 anyway, because it's possibly the great. It's a story. It was going to be when Pompey played Fiorentina in the Anglo-Italian Cup. He got into a fight with an opposition player in the tunnel. Then went into the dressing room, confronted the player whilst wearing a towel. Got into another fight with him. Then got into a fight with more players in the Marriott bar where he grabbed a knife from the kitchen. And then the following morning came down to breakfast in the lift. Was confronted with another Fiorentina player. So stepped out of the list and headbutted him.
Oh, well, we've actually got a John Durnin story, haven't we, Reece? I don't know if you remember. Do you remember one of our earliest Anorak trips to a pre-season soiree to Brentford? It probably was 98 season. And there was quite a number of us who'd gone to West London to watch the game. All of us who used to live in London, or yourself who used to come up from Pompey. And Durnin had recently, I think he'd been in an accident and he'd broken his arm or broken a bone or something. So I think he'd either had a car crash or crashed a golf cart or something stupid, because he used to like a bevy. After the game, we were all filed out of the ground because I think we had a cheeky pint after the game finished. And for some reason, Durnin was sat in the driver's seat of the coach. And all of us gave him a load of shit, saying, "Don't let him drive." And he looked really, really, really annoyed. Yeah. So John Durnin, excellent.
It's a great
4 points.
opening start. Reece, no pressure on you to deliver. Come on, number between 1 and 10.
Number 8, please.
Number 8. Okay, so number 8. Another litany of clubs here. He started his career at Middlesbrough, 2 league games, no goals. Went on loan to Burton Albion, 5 games, no goals. Coventry City, 6 games, no goals. York City, 3 games, no goals. Warsaw, 1 game, no goal. Then moved on to Shrewsbury Town, 31 games, no goals. Loaned to Wycombe Wanderers, 19 games and 3 goals. Seems those 3 goals attracted the attention of Portsmouth, who signed him, where he played 16 games, scored 1 goal. Then went to Northampton Town on loan, 22 games, no goals. Burton Albion, 7 games and no goals. They loaned him to Hartlepool, 10 games, 1 goal. He then signed for Grimsby, 31 games, 2 goals. On to Newport County, where he was prolific, 10 goals in 72 games. And then he finished he's currently still playing for Harrogate Town, where he's played 6 times for them. Reece, over to you.
I had an easier one, I think.
Clue. Not a clue. I was going to say Clonmel, but I don't think it is. So.
No. So going on to the next one. He's captained England at under 16, under 17, under 18, under 19 and under 20 level.
This is probably going to be a player that's well before my time, but no, not a clue.
He's still playing, Reece.
Oh, okay. Just can't think who he would have... It's not like Bryn Morris or something stupid.
Oh, Reece, he shoots, he scores.
Oh, no way. No way.
God, flipping it. At least choose players that have played for us for a slightly longer period of time.
You got him in the same number of attempts as Scott did.
Wow. Well, I think that
mine was easy. Mine was a hell of a lot easier than that one.
Yeah.
It really was.
Wow, I'm amazed I got that. That came from watching. I'm sure I watched. Who was it? Newport County play in the FA Cup or something. Not be Man United.
He scored.
Suddenly recorded. He scored. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, crikey!
Well,
I hope they're not as hard as that. All of them aren't as hard as that.
Right, Scott. Let's see if you can get a tricky one then.
So that wasn't tricky.
That wasn't tricky.
Okay, I'm ready.
Choose a number.
7.
Number 7. Oh, this is a tricky one. So, although, yeah, you might get this. Let's have a go. So he started his career at Rangers, 17 games, 1 goal. Went on loan to Cowdenbeath, 9 games, 2 goals. Partick Thistle, 8 games and no goals. Then on to Accrington Stanley.
Who are they?
Who are they?
Exactly. 73 games and 14 goals. Then signed for Pompey, where he played 82 league games, scored 18 goals. We sent him out on loan to Hartlepool for 4 games, where he didn't score. He then went to Wigan, 79 games, 6 goals. Luton Town, 64 games, 3 goals. Bristol City, 44 games and 1 goal. And he has recently returned to Luton Town on loan.
Oh, well, that's Cal Naismith.
It is Cal Naismith.
Oh, that last one just absolutely gave it to me. Sorry, Reese. I literally had no clue until that very last statistic.
Well, at
Right,
least
so
played us like 80 times as opposed to 16.
Yeah, yeah.
all right
Well,
then, Reese.
I kind of worked out he was still playing and still current, but yeah, I wouldn't have got it until that very last one.
The interesting thing about him is he's played in his career. He's played every position on the field apart from right back and goalkeeper, and his most common position was centre back, which he never played for Portsmouth.
Blimey.
Yeah, so let's hope he plays centre back for Luton and they keep losing.
Yes, right, Reese.
Oh, number
Your
2,
turn.
please.
Number two. I don't know if you're going to like me for this.
Oh, brilliant!
He started his career at Tivoli Gardens, where there's no record of how many games he played. He then moved to Crystal Palace, where he played 8 league games without scoring. Back to Tivoli Gardens, where he scored 12 in 16. A loan to Hearts, where he got 8 in 27. Then on to Preston North End, where he scored 27 goals in 58 games. Then signed for Portsmouth off the back of that prolific season, where he proceeded to play 31 games and scored 1 goal. We then sold him to the team up the road, where he got 9 goals in the same number of games. They loaned him to Ipswich, 2 goals in 3. He then went to Stoke City, where he had 182 games and scored 43 goals. Off to Charlton, 31 games, 5 goals. Blackpool, 27 and 6 goals. Millwall, 38 and 4 goals. Oldham, just 5 games, no goals. Nantwich Town, 4 goals in 21 games. And then Hanley Town, where he didn't make an appearance.
Not a clue. Not a clue.
There's a lot of clubs in there.
Yeah. When you said the Scummers, it was like, yeah, I'm not good on my Scummers history as you shouldn't be. So, no, I don't have a clue.
Okay, he was capped more than 70 times by his country and featured in 3 World Cup campaigns.
Bloody hell. Ooh,
That must be a minor country.
Yeah.
It's not a home nations country.
You might
is it?
offend some of our listeners with that.
Well, that's maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it. No, I can't think of
Okay.
it.
Despite being dogged with knee injuries, resulting in a number of failed medicals, he retired at the ripe old age of 40.
No, not a clue.
In November 2022, Stoke City renamed their renovated sports bar at the Bet365 Stadium in his honour. And Reece, seeing as you're doing so badly, and this is a tricky one, I'll tell you what the name of that sports bar is. It's called Ricardo's.
I've got it.
I was not Ricardo.
Pressure.
Not Ricardo Fuller, is it?
It's Ricardo Fuller.
Yeah. The knee injuries did it as well. He always looked. It looked as if his knees were on backwards half the time when he used to run.
Right, I've got one more for each of you. See if Reece, you can pull this out the fire. I do have a backup in case we go to a tiebreaker, but I realise that's not very likely. So Scott, pick a number between 1 and 10.
I'm going to go for 1 this time then.
Number 1. Oh, I think Reece, you might have a little chance here.
Depends what I choose.
Yes. So he started his career at Barnet, where he scored 1 goal in 177 appearances. He was sent out on loan to Welwyn Garden City, where he played a handful of games, and then Northwood, where he played 5 games, no goals. Then on to Swindon Town, where he scored 2 goals in 53 games. He then played 72 times for Portsmouth with 1 solitary goal, and then finished his career at Boreham Wood, where he scored 1 goal in 68 appearances. Who is he?
I'm going to have to go straight to a clue, bearing in mind that we're up to nearly 40 minutes on the pod now. So
all right,
let's have the clues.
Okay, primarily a centre-back. He also played right back for Pompey.
Scott Hiley?
No.
No.
Despite not being universally loved by Pompey fans, he captained the side twice.
No. It's got to be a defender, but I can't think.
Yeah. In 2011, he announced that he wanted to play for the Venezuelan national team as his father was Venezuelan. He never played for Venezuela.
He scored 1 goal, didn't he? At the
he
Fratton
did
end.
score 1 goal.
He scored 1 goal at the Fratton end, and that is, what's his name? If Jamie was on, Jamie would be able to tell you. It's Jamie's favourite fall guy. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. It begins.
Do you want another clue, Scott?
Does it begin with a D, the surname?
It does.
Yeah, Joe Tavera.
Yes, well done.
I got there.
An
Oh.
interesting fact, he retired from football age 30 to become a personal trainer for the Saudi royal family.
Well, that's not a bad gig, is it?
Yeah.
No. So, Reese, this is your chance to be a hero.
Number 9, please.
Number 9. Don't know if you're going to be a hero.
That's all right. Confident booster for the quizmaster.
Okay. He started his career at Crystal Palace, where he scored 18 goals in 222 games. He then went on loan to West Ham for 1 game, where he didn't score. Signed for West Ham and scored 4 goals in 179 appearances. Then went to Pompey, where he scored 3 goals in 114 appearances. Went to Reading, 7 games, no goals. Birmingham City, 2 goals in 36. They loaned him to Notts County, 1 goal in 16, and he finished his career at Notts County, where he played 32 times. So he totaled 607 appearances.
Feels like I should know this, but there's no names springing to mind, unfortunately.
Okay, you got 3 England under-21 caps.
Hiley?
No, it's very popular tonight, Scott Hiley. He was briefly manager of the Turks and Caicos Islands national team.
Blimey.
If you say so, which how is that meant to be a clue? Not a clue. Not a clue.
He played at left back in the 2010 FA Cup final. Out of position.
Oh, that's the game I've just never ever watched ever again. I was there, never watched it again. So it would have been Avram Grant's kind of team. Who was at left back then?
He's not recognised as a left back.
Yeah, clearly. I think I'll know the name when you say it, but no, I just.
Okay, the last clue was he was the 2011 Pompey Player of the Season.
God.
Is he a pundit now?
David Norris. Occasionally. That's incorrect.
No, it's not David Norris.
It's not David Norris.
So
Something has told me.
AI's playing along, is it, as well?
No, I have banished that to the depths of my soul. So no, I'm going to have to.
Scott, over to you then for steal a point.
So, well, I was going to say Jamie O'Hara, but he didn't play in the cup final because he had a bad back. So, or he did play, but didn't play for very long. So I'm going to go for Bel Hadj.
No.
It
was.
He was our left back, wasn't he?
Well, he's more left midfield, but yeah.
It was Hayden Mullins.
Not Hayden Mullins. Oh, blimey.
Okay.
So the final scores on the doors. For Reese, it was an away game at either Stoke, Cardiff or West Brom. The final score was Scott 11-6.
Oh, okay. Well played anyway. Well played. Thank you for that, Phil. Thanks for that, Phil. I hope people did play along at home as well, or wherever you're listening. We'll try and do some more quizzes as we go along and get you guys involved as well. So, yeah, as I said at the start, we're looking at Fab February Mark II, hopefully, and we've got a number of games coming up that I think are very winnable. So let's go through them, and then I'll go through the analysis that I quickly knocked up the other day to illustrate why I think we're hopefully gonna streak away from the bottom 3. So obviously we've got Sheffield United away on Saturday. Hopefully we'll go for a point, but our away form has been absolutely dire, so we've got to keep our fingers crossed. But we've got 3 games to go through February. We've got Portsmouth Cardiff on Tuesday the 11th, Oxford United away on Saturday the 15th, Valentine's Day, and then a week later we are at home to Queen's Park Rangers, obviously doing quite well at the moment, but we would hope to at least give them a game. So I've gone up to Swansea. So Swansea, Stoke, Cardiff, Pompey, Hull, Derby, Luton, Plymouth are the current bottom 9. Well, I'll go through the last 6 games, and so form. So Swansea, last 6 games, 1 point. Stoke, last 6 games, 7 points. Cardiff, last 6 games, 9 points. Pompey, last 6 games, 7 points. Hull, last 6 games, 7 points. Derby, nothing. Luton, 2, and Plymouth, 6. So most of the teams are sort of bouncing around the 6, 7, 8 mark in the last 6 games. And I've done a little bit of a prediction thing, and I'll go through what I think the next 4 games and February will bring for each team. So Swansea, I've given them 2 points. Stoke 5 points. Cardiff 5 points. Pompey 7. So 2 wins and a draw. And I didn't give us a point for Saturday, but let's hope we turn that around. Hull 2 points. Derby 2 points. Luton 1 point, and Plymouth 3. So I'm hoping that, if approximately correct based on the last 6 games of form, that will put the bottom half of the table: Stoke on 37 points, Pompey on 37 points, Swansea on 36, Cardiff 36, Hull 31, Derby 29, Luton 28, and Plymouth 28. So if we manage to do approximate of what I predicted, then that gives us a healthy 8-point cushion off the bottom three. And approximating where you think we might end up, Phil, which is your prediction a couple of pods ago, where you think we might be mid-table and 14th by the end of the season, which would be very welcome. So
I definitely didn't say that.
I think you did. I think
we did. Yeah, we can quote.
I might have had to listen.
Well, you may very well be right, so let's stick with it. But so I think the point I was trying to make with that is that the bottom 8 or 9 teams are roughly matching each other, apart from Derby and Luton, who are absolutely plummeting like stones. And it just needs a little bit of unbeaten form from one team, hopefully Pompey, to really push them above, 6, 7, maybe 8 teams, because it is extremely tight down there. And I don't think looking at previous seasons, it's been this tight in previous seasons. I think there's always been 1 or 2 teams that have been cut adrift, and therefore it's only 1 or 2 positions that are being thought of. But at the moment, it's all 3, and there are 7 or 8 teams that are fighting to stay out of that bottom 3. So what do you think? We've got the 3 games coming up. What do you think, Phil, that we're going to get out of those 4 games coming up from February?
So I've got a sneaky, unfounded feeling that we might nick something at Sheffield United. So I'm going to give us a point for that.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. And what else for Cardiff, Oxford and QPR?
Cardiff, I think we're going to smash them.
Let's hope so. And Alex Robinson falls over a lot in midfield and doesn't look like the player that we would have missed anyway.
Yeah, I think we owe them one from our previous encounter. So I think we're gonna do all right against them. I think, and the QPR was the other one, wasn't it?
Well, Oxford away first on the 15th.
Oh, Oxford away, we're going to win.
Yeah, okay.
And QPR, I think we're going to get a draw. Okay. So I think we're going to go unbeaten in 4 games.
Well, I kind of think that's possible. So 8 points out of 4 games would leave us in a very healthy position, I'm sure. What about you, Reese?
Well, considering rotation is probably likely on Saturday, considering Tuesday, I don't think we'll get anything out of Sheffield United. Cardiff, I think we'll win that one. And I'm not quite as optimistic as Phil. I think we might lose that. Rowett's doing a good job there. And then we might just salvage ourselves with a point at or 2-3 points at home to QPR. So I've got given us 6 points out of that.
Okay, fair enough. So between 6 and 10 points, that's, it's encouraging at least. Like I said, over the last 6 games, most teams seem to be averaging 5, 6, 7 points. So if we got that, we'd at least be matching the teams around us, and we'd still be hopefully safe unless one of the teams goes on a ridiculous run and wins 4 in a row. But some teams are playing each other, so that's not possible anyway. Bearing in mind, you mentioned rotation on Saturday. Obviously, we've got some new players in, which may or may not give us more of a chance with rotation. So I looked on the hopefully reliable transfer market website, and something interesting that came out was it gives a market value and an average market value, which whether it's true or not, I don't know. But it says the market value of our squad is 24.6 million, so almost 25 million, with an average value of 745,000, and that's in euros, not pounds. So probably slightly more in pounds, based on the euro. But interesting, the average age they put down was 25.3. Do we think that's low or high? Or I thought it'd be a bit higher, to be honest. But it does probably indicate that we are investing heavily in youth, and therefore, we could be encouraged that we're looking forward to some of these players bearing fruit in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, I was quite happy with the transfer business. I mean, I guess you could say maybe somebody more experienced up front, but I mean, you've got Yengi and O'Mahony coming back. But I mean, looking at what we brought in and what we got rid of, you've got to say the squad has got better. I think you'd be crazy to think otherwise. It's just getting them performing, isn't it? And I mean, we've got another Liverpudlian fast attacking hopeful in Katie Gordon, and so we'll just see. We'll see. But I mean, I think at the back, you've got to say we're going to be stronger. You've got to say that. Hopefully, we won't see Pack there again. But yeah, I was. It's not amazing. It's not average. It's somewhere in between. But yeah, I think most fans will be pleased with what we've brought in. Yeah, I mean, Phil and I were talking during the week, weren't we, that other potentially our rivals have brought other people in. I must confess, I don't know how many other championship proven players have been brought in, but certainly Atkinson and Hayden are probably two that probably stand out with experience. And you could probably say, is it Kuchi? Is that how you?
Oshish.
Yes, Al-Sheesh, yeah.
Oh,
So if I just go through...
Oshish.
yeah,
Oshish, is it?
yeah.
Okay, let me just go through...
He's not Irish.
Yeah.
It's Kieran O'Sheesh. So let me just go through then. So briefly, the notable ones to go out were Tom McIntyre on loan to Charlton, Sam Silvera off to Blackpool, Owen Moxon sold to Stockport, and Sorensen sold to Valerenga. So unsurprising about Moxon, really. He looked really out of his depth when he came on. Possibly slightly harsh because as with Swanson, when he was brought on as a finisher, he was put into a number 10 role and looked absolutely frightened to death when he came on, for the last 15, 20 minutes of a game when he was put in that. When he was put into midfield, he looked a bit more accomplished, but the last 2 or 3 times he was brought on a sub, he was put in a completely unfamiliar position and looked really, really out of his depth. So, good luck to him if he can rebuild his career at Stockport, who are on the up. They're doing really, really well in League Two. So hopefully he can cement himself there and climb the leagues again with another team. So good luck to him. So we brought in on loan Rob Atkinson from Bristol, Isaac Hayden from Newcastle. Oshish from Sunderland. Is it Cade or KD? You said KD, Reese. It's KD. Katie Gordon from Liverpool and Cohen Bramwell from Barnsley. And there was quite an uproar about Bramwell specifically because he'd come from the bench of a League One team. I mean, that's shouldn't really judge him on that. He might, as you said, Phil, he's supposed to be fairly nippy and gives us that. So Sparks used to be brought on as a wide left midfielder as well in games, and went against Burnley. He was brought on wide left, wasn't he, up front? So to supply some ammunition with some crosses. So, he's versatile to play at the back and up front when we need him on the left. So that's good news. And obviously we actually paid money for Hayden Matthews and Thomas Waddingham from Australia. I thought, as you said, Reese, I thought was very decent. Ashish, I've seen before. He's very well thought of in France in particular. I think that he's going to be a star of the French national team. Of the future, and as they always say, is very, very technical and very, very incisive in his play. So very exciting. And I said earlier, it's having that change of play that we need. So it gives Mousinho some different options off the bench rather than replacing like for like. So we'll have to see how it goes. What did you make of it all, Phil?
Yeah, reasonably happy. I think, as Reese was saying, the sort of the widely held belief is we need to get championship ready players. We certainly brought two, if not championship ready fit players, they were two championship ready players in Hayden and Atkinson. But yeah, as Reese said, looking around, I don't think there are a lot of established championship players that are actually moving around this transfer window. I saw some big money transfers of players I'd never heard of. So bringing in, sort of players from overseas who obviously got a chance, need to acclimatise. So in terms of what we brought in, I think Ashish is probably the most exciting one. I'm maybe not quite as excited as you are, Scott, by him, but I think he looks like a decent player.
Only because I've heard of him on 2 or 3 other occasions, talked of in the previous couple of years, and then he's ended up at Sunderland, and obviously their first 11 are doing really well, and he's not really getting any game time. So it'd be interesting to see him in the flesh and see what he can do.
It's a shame Jamie's not here because I imagine he would have signed him in Championship Manager and know all about him. But
well, I definitely signed him in a previous FIFA, so that's partly why I know about him. Yeah, he's I think the Sunderland fans certainly said he's one that will really, really excite you. So look after him and send him back in one piece.
Against us, didn't
he?
I think he did. Yeah,
and he played really well against us as well. He was one of their better players on the day, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously haven't seen him play, but if you're looking at maybe bringing Sadie off the bench to change the game or him, you would hope that there would be a bit more chance of him creating things than Sadie currently, because I don't think that Sadie's had much impact from the bench so far. Obviously had a very good early start to the season when he was being played up front and got a few goals, but the last sort of 3 months where he's been really out of the squad, he hasn't really made an impact when he's been brought on. So I expect him to be relegated, as well as Harvey Blair, and we haven't seen Kamara for a while as well either. So you're looking at 18, 19 players that should really do the job for us and make sure that we don't go down.
I think Cohen Bramall might prove to be quite an under the radar, shrewd bit of business, really, because he's by all accounts had a fairly decent time at Rotherham, and he just doesn't fit into the system that they play. He's coming to the end of his contract, so he's basically got half a season to earn himself a contract somewhere, be it here or somewhere else. But he's going to have the opportunity to prove that he can do it in the Championship, where he has played before. I think he's played about 70 games in the Championship. He's certainly got the pedigree coming up through Arsenal's youth system. So it could be a shrewd bit of business, because he's not coming here to be our first choice left back. We know that. But if he comes on and makes an impact, it's a good opportunity for him and a good opportunity for us. And I thought he looked like he revelled in it on when he came in on Saturday. He certainly looked like a player who wanted to be here. He did a very sort of enthusiastic lap of honour. He was, I think he could be a bit shrewd. The others, we'll see. Backup goalkeeper, maybe not something we were expecting, but means Stewart can hopefully go out on loan and sort of follow further his career. And of course, we've got that one empty spot in the 25 for bringing in a free agent should we need to. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think Bramall, like you said, was quite shrewd. We really struggle with left-footed players that can play on. I suppose he could have played Towler or McIntyre at left back if it was an emergency. But obviously McIntyre's gone, so it would only be Towler. But you need someone with pace in that position. And even if Bramall does well, and we do sign him in the summer. Three players who can play on that left side is not a bad thing going on into next season wherever we are. So. And he might be cheap, he might be cheap compared to others. So, it's always worth having a look at players. Thank you very much again, gentlemen. It's been another really good pod. So thank you very much for your thoughts and views and a very good quiz thing, Phil. Thank you very much for that. We'll try and come up with something again for next time. So I do hope you enjoyed this pod. We are the Play Up podcast team, aim to come out every 2 weeks. If you'd like to favourite us on Spotify or wherever you listen to us, please do, and we'll hope to speak to you again in a couple of weeks. So Play Up Pompey. Thank you very much, guys.
Cheers all.
Good night.